Hi everyone, it is Tuesday, September 23rd. I'm meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees here with WCNC Charlotte. Thank you for joining us on WCNC Plus for live weather impact. Of course, we're going to start with the local forecast, but with this week being the 1-year anniversary of Hurricane Helene, we have a lot of Helene content as well. At some point, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich is going to be live there up in Fleetwood, North Carolina, and we'll have Chief Meteorologist Tim Buckley from WFMY joining us as well for our coupled discussion, right? So let's start with the forecast today. It was a very, very warm day here in the Queen City. We had an official high temperature of 89 degrees. Another day, upper 80s, lower 90s. Dew point not feeling too bad in the 60s, but certainly could be better. 60s, I would say this time of year, does classify us back in a humid category. Now, temperatures the next few days, we are going to see some big drops, and we're essentially dropping by 3 to 4 degrees every single day. Now, tomorrow, I'm still expecting us to be in the lower 90s. So again, another 90-degree day to tack on to the overall 90-degree days that we've seen so far this year. But eventually we're trending downward, and a lot of this has to do with increasing rain chances by the end of the week. Now, I want to preface this before we get into the semantics of our rain chances, is that this will be nothing like Helene. I know a lot of times when we've had tropical systems this year, we've had rain events, it's kind of giving us a little bit of that weather hurricane anxiety, which is very, very normal. It's been, of course, studied by many psychologists, things like that. But I just want us, as we prepare for that, to know that when we look at some of these numbers, I want you to remember this is nothing like Helene. I know essentially, too, being around the anniversary, things can get a little bit, just concerning, right? It's very, very normal. Satellite radar showing nothing to worry about here locally across the Charlotte area, but we are still tracking some areas of rain, mainly up in the mountains and foothills. And actually earlier, when Colin and Brad were up in the mountains live during our regular newscast, Colin at least saw some rain. I think Brad was clear from any of that. He's also a meteorologist, right? So he can track the radar too. We have some areas of light to moderate rain, southern side of Avery County, as well as greater Burke and Caldwell. And nothing storm-wise, so no lightning strikes, but there are some pockets of heavier rain here. Also on the northern side here of Alexander County, north of Taylorsville, so it's north of Highway 64. You can see some of that action as well. Of course, we can zoom in a little bit closer and you can see a better idea of where this is. So there's Taylorsville. Again, it's on the northern side there of Alexander County, south of Boomer, south of Wilkesboro, but right on the edge there between Wilkes County and Alexander. And then as you make your way over toward here, northern parts of Caldwell, you can see dry toward Globe, Patterson, but some heavier rain toward Pineola area. And again, northern parts of Burke County. Because of where the cold front is that we'll be tracking later on this week, if you see any rain the next 2 days, it is likely going to be for those same mountain and foothill communities. But Thursday and Friday, storms become more widespread to scattered. I don't think everybody is going to see storms, but there's very high confidence that the storms will be scattered on Thursday and Friday. But this is where we start to see the confidence shift as we enter the second half of the weekend. So, wider view here of what's going on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Small chance of rain and storms in the mountains today and tomorrow, and then storm potential on Thursday. Again, I'm not so much concerned about the strong storm potential. I really want us to hone in on the rainfall itself, because not only, again, are we tracking rain for the first time in quite some time, but when you're in drought conditions or very dry conditions, the first rain, oftentimes you'll get what essentially is like an oily, slick residue that will happen on the ground because of all of that rain that we've been lacking. And also, when the rain has been lacking and we're in drier conditions, yes, we can see the rain eventually percolate through the soil, but it takes a while to do so. It's not right immediate. We know that. And so, sorry, James, I didn't mean to clap and scare you.
She clapped and I jumped.
But so it takes a while for it to percolate through the soil. So if you get heavy rain after drought conditions, it will run off quicker, similar to a saturated ground. So what you want, right, is light rain, over a prolonged period of time. Unfortunately, that's not what we're going to see in this case. So Thursday, Friday, areas of scattered rain. That I'm not concerned about. But what happens afterwards, this is the thing that we're watching very closely. That same cold front stalls off the coastline, and how far south it stalls or how close it stalls to the Carolinas will depend on how it interacts with two areas of low pressure that eventually are going to be trying to form just off the coast. As of right now, most of our models keep these lows offshore, but the closer they get, impacts, of course, near the coast, and a higher chance that that would result in some rainfall. I want to show you some model comparison here. We have three most reliable forecast models: the graph, the GFS, the Euro. They're in very good agreement through Friday morning that we're looking at about a quarter of an inch to about an inch or so at a maximum. Only the GFS and the Euro go out further than that. But notice the big change in confidence levels by the second half of the weekend. We're looking at upwards of 3.5 inches of rain versus a maximum of 1 to 2. And so that's a pretty big spread when it comes to some of those, rain chances being higher versus lower. And again, a lot of that has to do with how close those lows are to the coast. And again, early next week, not only could that be a Sunday, Monday influence to the rain, but it also could expand into Tuesday and Wednesday as well. So the areas that are what's complicating the forecast, so to speak, are these two areas shaded in orange and red. Now we know the area in red will likely become our next named storm, which is Umberto. It has a high chance over the next 7 days of development. But even if the one in orange doesn't actually form into a named storm, again, all of that low pressure energy will have an influence on the forecast. It's just how much it will influence the forecast, it's still a big question mark. So again, if we have any named storms, next storm name up on the list is Umberto. We are behind on named storms and hurricanes so far this season compared to average, but Umberto, Imelda, Jerry are the next three on the list. And of course, we know here in the Carolinas, I think Umberto being the one that's further away would be positive, since a lot of our H names have been just a pain in the booty, for lack of a better term. We get a lot of questions this time of year on this specifically, so I just wanted to talk about it real quick before we bring in Brad and Tim. But there are questions that happen every time there's two storms nearby. That's like, can they form together? Do they just go boom and just become one? Not necessarily, but what will happen is two areas of low pressure, two tropical storms, two hurricanes, whatever it is, they essentially will pivot almost like they're dancing around each other, and eventually one is stronger and will take the energy from the other. Now, right now, it looks like a good thing that it would likely be Umberto, again, the one that's further away, that could be stronger, because typically that's the one that takes the energy. So again, you want the one that's stronger to be the one that's further away from us. So we'll talk a lot more about that, of course, coming up in the coming days. More details as well tomorrow. Essentially, the closer we get to the weekend, the better data we have. Here's your Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Say that 5 times fast. Areas of rain again Thursday and Friday, and then really big question marks heading into the weekend and early next week. We'll leave the 7-day forecast up for you, but we'll be back in 2 minutes with Tim and Brad. We'll see you then.